Welcome in to a brand new episode of the Sports Hub Patriots Podcast, day after game pod. Alex, Barth, Matt Dolloff with you from 98.5 The Sports Hub, 98.5thesportshub.com. For those of you watching live, though, before we get to the game, we have some news, some breaking news.
Hit the sound, Barth.
Hit the
Pew, pew, pew.
Now,
This is breaking news.
Sponsor. All right. According to Jordan Schultz and NFL on Fox, the Patriots are trading outside linebacker Joshua Uche to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow.
We do not have a return yet, so I know people get annoyed when I look at my phone during the show. I'm going to monitor the situation here, but Joshua Uche, a day after being a healthy scratch, is headed to the Kansas City Chiefs. Was on my list, Matt, of potential Patriots trade pieces for the deadline that I stayed up late last night to publish because I knew if I started writing it this morning, I wouldn't get it up in time. So pat on the back to me. But Joshua Uche,
2026 sixth round pick coming back to the Patriots. That's all they got.
I thought they'd get more.
I'm hoping the Chiefs win another freaking Super Bowl. That's despicable.
I guess so. All right. They're selling. Your thoughts?
I think it's the right move. I feel like that's something they could have done the last 2 years with Uche anyway. You know, ever since that 10.5 sack season, he hasn't really produced nearly to that level, and they barely even used him, and it just felt like a guy that was on the way out for 2 straight years. I was shocked when they re-signed him, so I'm not surprised at all that they're selling. That this was pretty much a lost season, even before yesterday's surprise win. Clutch win. I guess I don't know how surprised people were, but I wasn't really expecting them to pull out that win, especially the way that game was going, down by 5, minute and a half left. Didn't think that was going to happen, but I don't think that really changed their plans at all. So I don't see them winning more than maybe 3 or 4 games this year. So it makes sense that they would sell off the pieces that aren't really going to be part of the future.
Yeah, no, this like you said, this move should have happened last year. I think last year it was reported they could have gotten a 4th round pick for him. Now, he's obviously he hasn't done as well since then. So you'd figure the price would go down, but you kind of go back to what happened last year. I'm trying to read the comments. A 6th, somebody says in the chat. Yeah, I thought they'd get more, not substantially more, but 4th, late 4th with the Chiefs. Maybe you do a pick swap, right? Josh Uche in a 5th for a 4th. I could have seen something like that.
Yeah, I thought maybe they could get a 5th. I don't know.
And a future pick too. Yeah. 2026, you said, right? And
yeah.
Shout out in the chat. I see 32 beat writers. Great. You want to talk about aggregating? This account does it right. So many people do it wrong. This account does it right. Shout out to them. But Joshua Uche out again. 1 year was on the last year of his contract, so that was kind of expected. It was a healthy scratch after he didn't. After he played a season low 2 weeks ago. They should have done it last year. They could have gotten more, but the selling begins. I guess so. We'll start here. We're going to talk about the game, and I was going to do the trade deadline at the end, but I guess let's start here. Who's next?
Who's next to be peeled off this roster?
Yeah.
You mentioned yesterday on the Sunday kickoff show. You mentioned City So as an option.
Yeah.
I mean, they are pretty much loaded up with bodies in that guard room, so it wouldn't be surprising if they got something for, a guard that isn't really part of the future like Josh Uche. So that wouldn't really shock me too much, but you got to think of trades coming out of the wide receiver room, right? I mean, I'd be a little disappointed if they traded Kendrick Bourne, but I guess realistically that might be the guy that can get you the most value. I mean, unless you're talking about trading one of their younger guys, a guy that's under contract, but I don't see them trading. Jalen Polk's here.
Yeah.
Kayshon Boutte.
You're not going to trade a rookie.
Kayshon Boutte's starting to come on. I don't see them trading him right now. KJ Osborne probably makes a lot of sense, but I don't know how much.
He said he wants it.
He wants out, but I just don't know how much he's probably going to be a similar thing to the Uche trade, a 6th, 7th rounder 2 years from now.
With a guy like that, look, Uche was going to leave. The thing is, their pass rush was non-existent, and he was arguably their best pass rusher. Yeah. So you're feeling pretty good if you're Will Levis or Mason Rudolph or whoever the Titans starting quarterback is next week.
On the Chiefs, by the way, real quick, like Steve Spagnuolo, I wonder if they're gonna sort of turn Uche loose, if he's all of a sudden he's gonna where's this been, that sort of thing.
That would not surprise me. That's a good take by you. On the wide receivers, I wouldn't trade Kendrick Bourne unless somebody wants to get stupid. Like if somebody gives you a 3rd round pick, right, top 100 pick,
sure,
yeah, obviously
next year, by the way, like 2025 3rd. Right. I am in.
But if it's another 6th round pick, future 6th, future 7th,
not worth it.
They're already having enough problems in their locker room. there's already enough of an issue getting the message across, right? Jerod Mayo had to come out in the media and call the team soft to get that message across and get a response.
Yeah, no, let's remove the one guy that's setting an example and being a pro and all that.
I think it's more than one guy. I think there's a couple. Jacoby Brissett, who now, because of Drake Maye's concussion, probably isn't expendable anyway, but Jacoby Brissett, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, I've seen people suggest him, even though he's on a longer-term deal. Devon Godshaw, who I've seen kind of talked about as well as a potential trade piece.
Well, Henry's the same thing as Bourne, I would say. I don't really think you want to remove that from the room.
Well, those four, I would say, are, I think, like cornerstone. Are they going to be a part of the long term? Maybe not, just because of age. Like, I think Kendrick Bourne's a good player. I think Hunter Henry's a good player, but they're older. Jacoby Brissett obviously is here on a 1-year deal, but you can't let this thing get away from you. They won this game that's big, and we'll get into why this win helps with that. But Kendrick Bourne talked about last week, and even some of the younger guys talked about last week. Like, the younger guys they don't have the right focus. And the message from the coaching staff isn't necessarily getting through. Those are the guys that are going to help you build up that culture and relay that message. And the last thing you need is this becoming like, a mess behind the scenes. And more than it already has been to an extent with, Javon Baker missing curfew and things like that. So I would hold on to those guys unless somebody's really going to make it worth your while.
Yeah, I think the guys you've mentioned, Henry Bourne and those guys, you should hold on to them just for the culture and the example they set. And like the guys you could peel off, or Uche, the writing was on the wall. He was a healthy scratch yesterday. Maybe he wanted out too. Osborne, he wants out. Remove that from the room. A disgruntled veteran is not really what they need right now.
Right.
So yeah, anyone that sort of wants out, I guess, sort of grant that.
So I look at I had on my list KJ Osborne, Tyquan Thornton. The thing is, you, like you said, you might not get a lot for Osborne. You probably won't get anything for Thornton. You might get a conditional 7th
or a swap. Yeah,
or a swap. You have. And I'm generally, as a rule of thumb, against trading a player for the sake of trading. Like, this guy sucks, I want him off the team. It's like, no, like, he's here for a reason, but they have too many wide receivers to begin with. You need to get Javon Baker reps. I know that it's not looking good for him, but you used a 4th-round pick on the guy. You got to get him on the field and give him a chance.
It's too early to write him off, too.
Jalen Polk, same thing. You got to get him on the field. Kayshon Boutte, his continued development. Pop Douglas needs to play because he's your best receiver. And Kendrick Bourne, even though he's had his drops, I am a little bit worried, has shown he can be a good player. So KJ Osborne, Tyquan Thornton, completely buried. Get a pick. You mentioned City So, kind of the same thing. I think City So's good. I wouldn't trade him. I would do the opposite. I would be starting him at left. Well, Michael Jordan's been good, but he's not just buried behind Michael Jordan. He's buried behind Layden Robinson, even though I think he's shown more than Layden Robinson has. When Cole Strange comes back with Ben Brown playing well at center, just Cole Strange going back into the mix at guard. Obviously, Michael Nwenu's back inside. I'm not moving Michael Nwenu for City So, but this is a guy that's shown promise, younger guy, under team control. If you're not going to play him in a league where there's an offensive lineman shortage and you can maybe get something for him, again, I'd play him. But if you're not going to play him, trade him, because he's just buried right now.
Yeah, I think the thing is that he's just not really an Elliott Wolf guy. Like Michael Jordan, recent signing, that's more of an Elliott Wolf guy. Obviously, Layden Robinson, an Elliott Wolf draft pick. I feel like that's sort of what's going on here. Wolf's wanting to move more toward the guys that he's implementing for his, vision for the team. And for better or worse, I know people are, hot on how he's handled building the roster for this team this season. But the offensive line's been playing reasonably well, I think. Maybe they're not playing well, so to speak.
They're playing well relative to what it was at the beginning of the
year.
They
have been much, much less of an issue lately. So I don't know. I feel like they're sort of onto something with how they're coming together with the O-line. They finally had the same O-line twice in a second game this year instead of the different line every week. So I don't know. I'm sort of on board with how it's going on the O-line. And so if they look at City So and say he's not really part of the future here, just like these other guys, we can get a reasonably, not a high pick, but a reasonable draft pick for him, then do it.
The one other guy, and there's different things at play here. I wonder, Sione Taki's not playing, and is he still injured? Is he a healthy scratch? If he's still injured, you can wait. They didn't sign him to a long-term deal. He might be worth something. But you run into that thing of, it doesn't look good when you sign a player in free agency and then trade him within a year, because guys are going to look at that. And
I know when he's injured and then he barely even plays anyway.
Right. Well, he might just not be playing because he's injured. Any other trade deadline thoughts before we move on to the game?
No, I think we covered. I think you got to keep the veterans. I don't want him. I don't want him to gut the veteran part of the room. I think that's very important to me. I don't care about a 2025 4th, 5th round pick that much.
Right? So. Unless somebody gets stupid,
right?
Which you can never rule out.
Like you said, like you said, if we're talking about a day 2 pick, then yes,
pretty much anybody on this roster. I think the only guys on this roster I wouldn't move for a top 100 pick are Gonzalez, May, Douglas, Onwenu, Keon White, I guess. Sure. Kyle Duggar. I think that might be the end of the list.
Yeah, sure.
Josh Bentley, I guess he's hurt, but
yeah. Barmore.
Oh, Barmore. Yeah, I'm thinking of like the active roster. Yeah, some of the guys who are banged up you can throw on there too. But
Pepper's probably trade him if someone wants him.
Yeah, I
get that out of the room.
All right, let's talk about this game. Patriots beat the Jets 25-22. And it's only fair, Matt. I asked you this question like 4 or 5 weeks in a row after they lost, and it's how we open the show. So we'll open the game recap portion the same way. How you feeling about your coaching staff?
It was a good day for them, right? I mean, they needed to get that response out of them. And I was talking about it with Gasper and Murray on the pregame show. It's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to come out and continue to play soft football? Or are you going to prove your coach wrong? Are you going to come out and say, no, we're not soft. We are a tough team. And so I thought they came out and responded reasonably well. It didn't start the way you wanted to. Obviously, they had the 3-and-out. They gave up a 40-yard punt return. And then even at halftime, I posted the numbers. It's like they're giving up 5 yards a carry. They're not running the ball particularly well with their running backs, and they obviously gave up the big return. But it still felt different. It felt like they were at least trying to play tougher football. And it's not that the numbers just weren't in their favor at that time, but they weren't just getting completely gashed up the middle of the field in the run game, things like that. And I felt like they were trying. They were trying to deliver a response. And so I thought it was a big week for Jerod Mayo more than anyone else. This is going to be the sign if he completely lost control of the team, right, or if he had some semblance of control over what's going on. And so it's a good sign for him. It's a good sign for him that he has some level of control. He can get something out of the guys. And as you know, despite all the debating about how he handled that loss to the Jaguars and calling the team soft and what he was saying, and like that, that sparked a million hours of debate and talk show fodder. But they came out and they responded, and they obviously came through in the clutch. That I thought that was huge. And so it was huge to see them not go in the opposite direction, not give up. And like, if this could have been them giving up on the season, if they came out, continued to play soft and let the Jets run all over them. And so they did not do that. They did not give up. They went out and they took the win at the very end. And so that was good for the players. And I thought a good sign for Jerod Mayo. I don't know if this is going to translate to a lot more wins going forward, or if they're going to be able to build on this. I think that's a big question for them. But it was good for Jerod Mayo to get that out of the guys. And it just, in the locker room video that they posted after the game, it seems like the guys are engaged, and they, at least on some level, they believe in what's going on with the coaching staff. It's not completely lost. So other than maybe the wide receivers, I don't know. But like most of the team, they're locked in, they're engaged. They proved their coach wrong. And so good all around.
So that's what this game's about to me is, they responded. You can't have a response once every 8 weeks. Like, it has to be sustainable now, but it hasn't totally gotten away from the coaching staff. So, if they come out next week, the Titans are bad. The Titans might be worse than the Patriots. They got 50 piece. And look, the Lions are a good team, but you give up 50 in the NFL? Oh boy. So, can you carry this message over to another winnable game? Now you've won a couple in a row. You're doing it without Drake Maye, and we'll get to that element of it because we've talked about this whole season is about showing growth. And if May's not in there, how much growth? But you know what? I guess it shows toughness. So, I think it's fair to expect them to win this week. I think that it's absolutely fair to expect them to win this week.
And I think it might have been on Toucher and Hardy or Zoe and Beetle, like teams that got blown out by the Lions this year, they lose the next game too. I feel like the Lions leave a mark. I think that probably speaks to how good the Lions are.
There was a thing like that a couple years ago with the Niners. They were the first team in like years that every single team that played them lost the next week.
Yeah, I think that's sort of, I think they're so big and stout and talented on the lines that I think they probably just leave you hurt in the following week, and it's hard to sort of recover from that. And so it's going to be huge for the Titans if they want to save their season. They're at home, and so it's going to be big for the Patriots to try to build off this win and for the Titans to rebound. But I think the Titans are going to be in a tough spot coming off that blowout loss to the Lions, and the Patriots sort of riding high, and we'll see if the Patriots can carry it over. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see who comes out looking better to start that game at least.
All right, so we'll start. Do you want to do Drake Maye now, or do you want to get to the game and do Drake Maye at the end?
Let's get Drake Maye out of the way since he started and left.
Look, it's just one quarter, but we're really microscoping everything this guy does. It was one of the better quarters of football he's played. Mm-hmm. He was really freaking good. Yeah. And the stats don't reflect it as much because he, like Brissett, got bit by the drops, but that throw rolling out to his right where he hits Tyquan Thornton, that's an incredible throw. You see what a factor he is with his legs. I was ready to have this whole, hey, can we get some Drake Maye designed runs in the offense take? Now maybe you wait a couple weeks. If I have to nitpick anything about Drake Maye's brief performance yesterday, by the way, he was only 2 yards shy of being their leading rusher, despite only playing one quarter.
Wow.
If there's one thing to nitpick from Drake Maye's performance yesterday, you got to slide sooner. It's not worth the extra yard, kid. And hopefully lesson learned here.
Yeah. I wonder if the initial head injury came like right before that helmet hit, where he sort of got sandwiched and then sort of kept stumbling forward. Like right there, you probably can give yourself up.
Probably doesn't help. Yeah.
Who cares about the other 5 yards? Let's preserve your brain there. But yeah, he sort of looked wobbled just after that, and then but then the hit to the helmet probably put it over the top. But
no flag on that, by the way.
Yeah, no, good job, refs.
Yeah, great job. Great job. The ref went over to check on Maye, but didn't throw a flag. So
good job, concussion spotters too. Left him in for another 4 or 5 plays.
Good job, NFL, just being super consistent in how you handle all of this.
Yes, they really care about player safety.
They're just on top of things. So Drake Maye is in concussion protocol. I don't need to read all the medical sciencey terms. It's a 5-step thing. You could check it out at 985thesportshub.com. I broke down what the 5 are. I will say this. So it's basically like you can't do anything except very light stretching. And then once you do that, and there's no timetable on any of this. It's all done by an independent consultant.
It could happen within 1 week.
It's incredibly rare.
It's rare,
incredibly rare.
Okay. Well, then he's out this week.
I'm not expecting him to play this week. So it's super light stretching. And then if you do that without showing more symptoms, then it's like a little more vigorous stretching, maybe some jogging, whatever. Then you get into, you can start doing some weights. Phase 3 is you can start doing some weights. You can be out on the field for up to 30 minutes. You can't do anything like team period, but like you can go out for stretch and The fourth phase is non-contact football activities. And then the 5th phase is basically they put you out there fully involved, but you're not out yet because they want to make sure you don't have any, bounce back symptoms or anything before they fully clear you.
Okay. So they're not getting that done in 1 week then.
There is one unique thing here. And maybe this gives them a chance to play next week. I think more like this upcoming week. I think more likely you're looking at the Bears game. And this is where that may buy them some time, or at least allow them to fully prepare for the Bears game for quarterbacks. So phase 4 is non-contact, right? And then phase 5 is going through a regular practice. For quarterbacks, a regular practice for them is non-contact.
Right.
So phase 4 and phase 5 are kind of the same thing. So they get to not skip the step, but it's kind of 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah.
Right. There is you just kind of do 4 twice. But so maybe that helps them in 2 weeks. I was trying to find the exact number. I couldn't find it, but there are very few, if any, players that have come back this year. I think there was one player who played on a Thursday night, got concussed, and then played the next Sunday. So he was technically back the next game, but he had 3 extra days, 4 extra days. So I would expect it to be Jacoby Brissett against Tennessee. Along those lines, Matt Dolloff, what'd you think of Jacoby Brissett yesterday?
I loved it. I love the way he came in. He came in the middle of the game. I mean, it just shows that you have to prepare as if you're going to play every week. And it looked like he was ready to come back in. And so big respect to him for that. And the fact that he made those plays at the very end of the game, he made plays with his arm, he made plays with his legs. He converted 2 third downs on that final drive. I mean, obviously he didn't produce like you wanted him to in the middle 2 quarters, call it, because the game was close. And I thought one of the questions people might have about this game is, do they win that game if Drake Maye doesn't get hurt and he's in there the whole game? I still say yes. I feel like they might even pull away. They might build a lead with Drake Maye the way that game was going. He scored that touchdown running to the pylon, and so the offense sort of stagnated after Jacoby Brissett came in. But I put more emphasis on what you do at the very end of the game, and so the same with Kayshon Boutte with making that 1 catch to make up for what was a rough day for the whole receiver group. And, I just thought Jacoby Brissett was impressive the way he handled that final drive, came through in the clutch. So this guy isn't known as a guy that's, going to win you a lot of games, making a lot of plays at the end of the game. And so, like, I think he deserves a ton of credit for how he pulled off that win at the end.
I think, too, this is a guy that nobody wants to lose their starting job. Obviously, that's frustrating. But the way in which it happened, like, he seemed particularly bothered by the way in which it happened, where he said yesterday after the game, this is about me believing in me and not
you kept killing
the media.
Kept crapping all over us.
Right.
Like, what did I do?
Maybe he felt like we were helping push him out, which for some people might be true. But this is a guy that had every reason in the world to quit, to check out, to not stay ready.
Yeah.
And he didn't do any of that. Like, he looked ready to go. And, people roll their eyes at, there's actually something that goes into being a good backup quarterback beyond how talented you are as a quarterback. It can be so easy to get disengaged in that position. You hear guys talk about it. Consummate professional. He was ready. He was prepared, got his opportunity, made the most of it. So, you still saw some of the issues pop up that we saw through the first couple of weeks. The offense became more vanilla. There were a couple of plays where I thought maybe he held the ball. You lose that rushing element. Drake Maye's been their entire running game for the last 3 weeks, basically. So you lose that. I didn't think he was quite as bad as he was those last 2 games, San Francisco, Miami. I thought he was getting sped up in those games. I think maybe, a couple weeks on the bench, able to reset himself and looked more like he did against Cincinnati early in the season, Seattle. I think that's what you'll get next week against Tennessee. But he deserves credit. Look, the numbers could have been a lot better too. Like, the drops were a problem. 5 drops, 2 for Kayshon Boutte, 2 for Kendrick Bourne, 1 for Tyquan Thornton, which was a drop, but like, you got to catch that ball. There was contact there from Jalen Mills.
The Thornton one?
Yeah.
That was right in his hands, 50 yards down the field.
So technically a drop means like no contact. And like Mills is hitting him, but like,
not in my book, not in my stat book.
I'll say he should have caught that. Whether it goes down as a drop or not in the box score, this was my point, because I think people might see that and say, well, no, there are only 4 drops. You got to catch that. Whether you call it a drop or not, you got to catch that ball. So,
especially for a guy that's fighting for playing time.
So that was May. Brissett has had his drops as well.
Brissett also had, remember, there was I think it was a 39-yard catch by Hunter Henry that got wiped out by a penalty. And so
that's right. Michael Jordan's hold. Yeah.
If they converted that, they were in the red zone, might have had another touchdown right there.
I don't put that one as much. Like, look, penalties obviously aren't good, but Brissett did that because he's scrambling around the pocket. And I think if Michael Jordan doesn't hold his guy, he gets sacked.
Okay.
So with the wide receivers, what did we talk about last week? Like, Bullock's out. There's going to be opportunities. Kayshon Boutte has a chance to really prove he's moved up on the depth chart. Tyquan Thornton, KJ Osborne, these guys are going to get chances. Did anybody make the most of their chance?
No, I thought like that we were like the story of the game coming out of that, like until they made that miracle drive at the very end.
Right.
Like, the big story is going to be the receivers not being able to back up any of their talk, and like, guys wanting trades, and guys, Kayshon Boutte talking like, I'm demanding the ball. Like, I went and talked to the coaches, like, we need to get me more involved in the offense. Like, who are you? So like, credit to Kayshon Boutte for coming up with that big catch at the very end and sort of redeeming himself. But yeah, like, and Kendrick Bourne was disappointing too, because you expect him to sort of set that example where it's like, I'm going to show up and I'm going to execute, and he couldn't do it either. And so, yeah, that room's sort of a mess right now. I think even with most of the guys showing up and playing tough and executing and all that, the receivers, I think, are still a huge question mark.
Look, I have no problem with receivers who are feeling themselves, right? I think you have to have a big ego to play that position at a high level.
Okay, no, the problem isn't necessarily the talking. It's the talking, and then they didn't back.
So that's what I was going to say, because like, let me be careful, because people, they'll get some big boisterous receiver next year. He's good, and people will be like, I thought you didn't want this. I thought you didn't like receivers who talk. Talk your talk. I have no problem with that. But you got to play like it.
You got to walk the walk.
Is it Jim Murray who's had the line, the ratio of talent to ego in the wide receiver?
Yes,
like,
he said that to me on pregame. The ego to talent ratio is way out of line.
I'm fine with the ego. I have no problem with that. You got to play up to it, though. You're not playing up to it. It causes more harm than good.
You can't say I have the best hands in the league and then have 3 drops.
Exactly. So, I'm not anti. How's my computer already? We might have to have Jim Louth come free us and hit stop, because this thing have an hour battery. Yeah, I have no problem with boisterous wide receivers, but like, the ones that can play. You know what I'm saying? So
right, exactly. Yeah, you gotta say whatever you want, but you gotta if you're gonna like talk like that, you gotta show up and play. And that was tough week for them all around.
Anything else on the offense? Again, the running game was better. I think they're at like 2.1 yards per carry, 2.2 outside of the quarterbacks. So better, but still not good. Hunter Henry, I should give Hunter Henry credit, showed up on National Tight End Day.
Yep.
That guy showed up to play.
He had a great day.
Yeah. And yeah, you kind of talked about the offensive line earlier. I agree with you. It was better.
Yeah, they still need to run block, but I think the pass protection is where they're playing much better. Vederian Lowe, I mean, he's starting to, I think, kind of prove us wrong. He's playing pretty well when he's been in there. He's got to stay on the field and be a little more consistent in that regard. But yeah, pass protection's better. Run blocking still a work in progress. And, I think until they figure out the blocking up front, I don't know how much better the run game's going to be.
On the defense, so one, I thought this was a really good game for Christian Gonzalez. Really good. Gets moved on to Devontae Adams. Didn't allow a catch. Adams had a couple catches. They were both in zone. Gonzalez was really good in this game. There's been some questions about why they didn't move. So because he goes to Adams, Marcus Jones takes Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson won that matchup pretty emphatically, I would say.
Yeah.
Why didn't they move over to John Jones? He was limited all week. He dealt with something personal on Friday. Only played half the snaps.
I thought he played safety when he was out there.
Yeah, and he was mostly playing safety. I wonder if that was a thing where like they knew they were only going to get so much out of him. You know what I'm talking about? But besides that, I thought it was a good. Besides Marcus Jones, I thought it was a good game from the secondary. It's just, again, no pass rush. The run defense was better. Christian Ellis looked really good. Jelani Tavai, how about him? Making some plays against the run.
Yeah, not getting exposed like he was the previous 3 weeks.
But that's the one spot where, you go back to the soft comments. They had one sack, another quarterback hit. They still can't get after the quarterback. And after trading Josh Uche today, obviously, it doesn't seem like much is going to change in that regard.
Yeah, no, that's I've been pointing that out for the last couple of weeks. I think that's the big concern because I just don't know how they can sort of fix that. And I feel like they sort of fixed the run defense. They tackled a lot better. They were tighter at the second level once guys broke through. But up front, they did a better job sort of engaging blockers and then sort of having good timing to disengage and sort of limit the guys, getting up the middle. They didn't just get gashed and pushed aside up the middle like they were against Jacksonville. And so I thought overall the front seven played a lot better against the run. The pass rush, I feel like they just don't have the horses. And like you said, they just traded their best horse in that regard. And like Keon White hasn't been making nearly enough of an impact as a pass rusher in recent weeks. And so I just don't know how they're going to fix that. They probably can't unless they go out and acquire a pass rusher, which I don't see happening this year. Maybe they do a player for player swap type of deal. But like, I just don't see it with the pass rush. And like, when Aaron Rodgers has time to throw, he could still make a lot of throws. And so I think we saw that yesterday. Good to see them play a little tougher and tighten up the run defense. Like that's good.
Right.
But you're not going to win a lot of games if you can't get pressure on the quarterback. And even this year and next year, edge rusher is going to be a big need for them. They're probably going to need outside linebackers, defensive linemen. They're going to need multiple pass rushers. So that to me is still the big issue on the defense.
So that's what you mentioned Rodgers. Like what's wild to me about this game, Sauce Gardner didn't have a good game against Kayshon Boutte, but Boutte bailed him out a couple times. I thought Rodgers was fine. I thought Quinnen Williams made some plays. Garrett Wilson was obviously very good. Devontae Adams, that's a wash with Christian Gonzalez, but like Breece Hall ran the ball well. Most of the Jets' big time players showed up and they still lost, which is just like, the Jets are still the Jets. Like we were all saying to each other after the game. And that's why, big picture, I think something you take away from this game, I'm big on this. You can't make these like 5-year projections in the NFL about what teams are going to be. And I think it's a good lesson learned because you're still going to have, it's still the NFL. Teams are still dumb. This might be the single dumbest coaching decision I've seen this year, Matt. In-game coaching decision.
Which one?
All right. So the Jets score with 3 minutes to go up 5. And they're going for 2. To make a 7-point game. That's fine. That you go for 2 there. Obviously, you go for 2 there. Why they didn't call a timeout instead of take the delay of game? If you score, you're up 7. So either you're going to win or at the very worst, you're going to overtime. That time, they had 2 timeouts in their pocket. Those mean nothing to you. You can't take those with you. 2-point conversion from the 2 and 2-point conversion from the 7, two very different plays. And by the way, when they ran it from the 7, threw it well short. And maybe it's like, all right, 6'5" Mike Williams on 5'8" Marcus Jones, but help was going to get there. He was so short. How you don't call a timeout in that situation, and Ulbrich threw Rodgers under the bus for it after the game, which is just chef's kiss, right? That was mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to put that on Aaron Rodgers too, because Jeff Ulbrich, he's an interim defensive guy, like no head coaching experience. Like that's where you got to turn to your 40-year-old future Hall of Fame quarterback.
Also, Robert Saleh would have called timeout, just saying.
Saleh probably would have called a timeout. He probably would have been engaged enough in that situation to call a timeout. And Aaron Rodgers needs to know what's going on there. He needs to call that timeout and then go over to Jeff Ulbrich and be like, what the hell's wrong with you? And like, why didn't you do that? Why did I have to do that? Yeah, no, that was a huge mistake in the game. Obviously, in retrospect, I thought they were going to get away with it anyway. I didn't think the Patriots were going to actually pull off that last drive, but yeah, that's sort of where they lost the game. That's sort of where they lost the game. They couldn't get the first 2-point conversion off. And so like, you know, what happens? Did the Patriots get down the field? Do they make that extra point? Like, maybe the Jets hold on if they actually get the points there. So yeah, that was a huge moment in the game. And as good of a game as it was for Jerod Mayo and his staff, the staff they were going up against, that might be one of the only staffs in the league where it's like, maybe you give the edge to Mayo there as bad as it's going for the Patriots.
The Patriots.
Ulbrich was totally exposed.
The Patriots outcoached the Jets. Maybe some of that's by default, but they did.
Right. That's what I mean.
You can't say they didn't.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that game? Yes, we actually might need to stall a little bit because again, we got to. So for people who are watching live who don't know, the end button is over there, which neither of us can get to right now. It's supposed to be on my computer, which apparently is a 25-minute battery life.
There's no mystery arm here.
Any other thoughts on that game?
Where the hell is your power supply?
I didn't bring it. It's a 45-minute podcast.
Oh my God. You gotta have the contingency plan, Barth.
All right, how about this? I wanted to talk about this.
That's what you get for trusted technology.
It's not a Patriots thing, but it's the biggest NFL story of the day. We'll wrap it up with this.
I have a quick thought on the game.
Quick thought. Okay.
As bad as Marcus Jones was as a cornerback, he had that big punt return that resulted in a touchdown. So it was good. It was good to see that happen.
Tough teams cover kicks, though. They allowed a long punt return of their own. But this is where, all right, I'm thinking of more takes now as we're going. So they allow that long punt return, right? And then they got to stop on defense, and they didn't allow points off it later in the game. Because I think a lot of this game is like what got fixed compared to last week, right? Later in the game, they punt the ball to the Jets, down a score. I think it was 16-14 at this point, right? 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. So this is a very, very similar situation to last week. Late in the third quarter, they give the Jaguars back the ball, and the Jaguars go on that 17-play 11.5-minute drive that didn't result in points, kind of ended the game because it took so much time off the clock. The Patriots didn't have time to come back without rushing, right?
Right. Took a whole possession away from them.
So this time, right. Great way to put it. This time, the Patriots punt the ball to the Jets. 13 yards on first down. Don't love that. 4-yard run, forced incompletion, pressure forces another incompletion. Off the field. Better. Like good growth. So, off the punt return off that, it's another one where I look at it like, that drive was where the Jaguars started their stretch of running 17 run plays in a row. And I think some of that's where the soft idea came from. That wasn't a soft moment for them. It was a good moment. It was a tough moment for them. So that was good. The one other story I wanted to talk about, Hail Mary. How about that? That was something.
That was awesome.
That was unbelievable. On top of the fact, so that happened like right when I was finishing up last night. I'm annoyed. I didn't see it live. There were a couple people left in the press box. You had left at this point, and I see a text from my friend, like, Dan Quinn's an idiot. Or my friend texts me, what's Dan Quinn doing? Like 30 seconds later, Dan Quinn's an idiot. And I saw the text, I was like, whatever. And I'm typing, and then I look, and like he texts me like 30 seconds later, oh, never mind. And then I go look at Twitter. I'm like, wait, what happened with Dan Quinn? And I see it. And so then I'm like, all right, I got to drive home. And I have another text from this friend. Man, what a tough night to be Tyreek Stevenson.
Seriously.
I'm like, what did Tyreek Stevenson do? If you haven't seen it, so I assume everybody's seen the Hail Mary at this point.
Yeah.
But
I feel like everybody's seen the other angle.
So I don't know if that's just like only on social media right now. Tyreek Stevenson's a Bears corner. He's on the complete other side of the field where the ball is snapped, taunting the fans. While the play is going on, he's still taunting the fans. You can see in the front row, there are Bears fans pointing at him. Like, no, you got to go over there. And he ends up being the one that deflects the ball back to Noah Brown.
Yeah. The old alley-oop play.
Is that is that like a football manifestation of when the hosts aren't listening?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah.
That's an NFL play for multiple reasons you will see on like every highlight reel for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I was looking up like just his bio. I'd be like, if this guy's like a 7th round pick, he's gone. They're gonna cut him this morning, but he was a 2nd round pick just a year ago. So I think he's gonna stick around for now. And there's actually a tweet that just came in from me on Rappaport. Matt Eberflus tells reporters that Tyreek Stevenson addressed his teammates today about the trash talking with fans prior to the Hail Mary. As far as Stevenson's role, Eberflus said he's got to do a good job putting a body on 85. He was supposed to cover the guy.
Yeah.
That caught the ball. I don't know if he just said that when I'm not listening. But like
I don't know, like Hail Mary's usually just like zone. It's like get back there, but yeah.
And then tip the ball down.
Oh, he's supposed to be the back guy. Is that what it was?
He was supposed to cover the guy in the back, which is Noah Brown all by himself.
That's how you do a Hail Mary when you can't reach the end zone. You try to knock it back to somebody in the end zone.
Yeah.
So usually in the defense, you don't want to be the last guy back, or you want to be the last guy back, essentially.
Yeah. So I didn't want to be like an a-hole about it, but like the thing that made me laugh about the plays, everyone's like, oh my God, Jaden Daniels is amazing. The ball got tipped. The Bears guy tipped it to his receiver.
63 yards in the air with bad ribs is impressive. Like, that's a hell of a throw.
I don't want to take away from credit to him for playing in the first place and having another good game. Like he's looking like a great player.
Look, good. Joe Milton would have got it to the back of the end zone from there, but yeah,
Joe Milton would have hit us in the face.
Yeah. Did you see Tyreek Stevenson tweeted an apology?
Yeah, I think he should.
To Chicago and teammates, my apologies for lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over until zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen. #bear down.
I mean, it's an instant classic, like karma, bad look, tough play for gaff for a single player.
That's the Chicago Bears, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You see Caleb Williams' reaction too?
Yeah, disgusted. He just walked up and left. Yeah, we'll see them in 2 weeks. Maybe Drake Maye gets back on the field. It'll be interesting to see if who finds a way to lose that one.
All right, I don't know if anybody's getting our calls, so let's do this. Do you want to go sign it off over there?
I'll go sign us off.
All right,
Barthy.
as I wrap this up, you'll head over there. Sports Hub Patriots Podcast. For more, check out 985thesportshub.com. I'll be back Thursday with the Titans game preview. Until then, for Matt Dolloff, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.